I'm going to turn now to the co-architect of the Trump administration's plan and his former attorney and close friend and ambassador to Israel, David Freidman. And he's joining me from Tel Aviv. And this is an exclusive interview. So, Mr. Freidman, thank you for joining me. Look, you have just heard some quite harsh analysis of the economic part of your plan. And particularly, I'm interested in getting your reaction to the last thing Mr. Bahour said, that if this support of Israel and if this, as he put it, driving off the cliff of a two-state solution happens, it's to Israel's detriment. How do you explain that? How do you respond to that?
I don't think anyone responsible in Israel is pushing for a one-state solution. So I think his concerns are, I understand his point, but I don't think there's really a serious political movement in Israel for a one-state solution. And I don't think any of the acts that Israel's taken or we've taken over the past 2 years is driving us to that point.
So could I ask you then, Mr. Freidman, to just state it? Okay, I understand. Sorry, we've got a delay. I'm sorry to interrupt you. Are you saying that the Trump administration and the Kushner peace plan and your involvement in it absolutely still believes and upholds the notion of a two-state solution?
Look, when we haven't used that phrase, but it's not because we are trying to drive towards a one-state solution. The issue we have is agreeing in advance to a state, because the word state conjures up with it so many potential issues that we think it does a disservice for us to use that phrase until we can have a complete exposition of all the rights, all the limitations that would go into Palestinian autonomy. We believe in Palestinian autonomy. We believe in Palestinian civilian self-governance. We believe that that autonomy should be extended up until the point where it interferes with Israeli security. And it's a very complicated needle to thread.
Mm-hmm. You say autonomy, they obviously say independence. And the reason I'm talking about it is because it goes to the heart of the plan that you are trying to get the world on board, and including the Palestinians on board. You saw the story, the report from, a real live Palestinian business, the brewery. And they say, look, you can't bribe us, you can't fob us off, you can't tempt us with a carrot of $50 billion without answering the obvious elephant in the room, and that is that the political settlement and the political parameters and the political solution has to come with or as part of it. Where are you on that part?
We don't disagree at all. I think we've made the point over and over again that the economic solution goes hand in hand with a political solution. But let me explain a little bit about a political solution. In order to have a political solution, you need political institutions. You need a transparent economy. You need the rule of law. You need certain freedoms, freedom of the press. You need a justice system. You need to stop concentrating all the Palestinian wealth in the political elites. That's part of what Bahrain was about, trying to help the Palestinians create the institutions necessary for statehood. Because let's be clear, okay, the last thing the world needs is a failed Palestinian state in between Jordan and Israel. And right now, the Palestinian government is so weak. They have no answer to Hamas. They leave that to Israel to take care of. They have no answer to Islamic Jihad. They leave that to Israel to take care of. And what can't happen here, the one thing that can't happen is the Palestinians obtain independence, and in short order, this becomes a failed state controlled by Hamas, Hezbollah, ISIS, or Al-Qaeda. I mean, that is an existential threat to Israel. It's an existential threat to Jordan. It simply can't be. So with great sympathy for all of the issues, the red tape, the bureaucracy, it goes both ways, by the way. And it's not quite as bad as the Palestinians say, and it's not quite as good as as Kogat says. I mean, there's lots and lots of stories here not worth going into. But the point is that we need to help the Palestinians create the institutions for autonomy and self-governance. The other thing I would say, just, what I'm saying is nothing new. If you listen to what Yitzhak Rabin said to the Knesset in 1995, he was a great Israeli hero. He gave his life for the cause of peace. And when Yitzhak Rabin spoke to the Knesset to sell the Oslo Accords, he also was unwilling to use the term Palestinian state. He preferred words like autonomy and self-governance because that word, it just creates expectations that I think, cause everybody to kind of retreat to their corners. And it's not helpful.
Mr. Freidman, look, I mean, the notion of a Palestinian state is kind of enshrined in international law right now and in all the blueprints for peace. So it's very interesting to hear you question the use of that very word, which is the fundamental reality of any people's aspirations. I would just say that, it was at the height of the Oslo process that the Palestinian economy boomed, that unemployment was at a record low, and that there was a great deal of success between the two entities. And I would say also that other prime ministers, for instance, Prime Minister Olmert and others who've dealt with Mahmoud Abbas and the authorities, say that he must be the partner for peace. He wants to be, and there is no other. So if you don't think they're up to it, there's nobody else to deal with. And I guess I'm asking you this because I wonder what you have asked your friends in the Israeli government, and you were just unusually at a cabinet meeting of Benjamin Netanyahu's. What have you asked them in return for all the things that you've delivered to the Israelis? I mean, surely, you're negotiators. What have you asked them in return for moving the embassy, for agreeing with, the annexation of the Golan Heights?
Well, look, we spent lots of time speaking with the Israelis about improving conditions in the West Bank and Gaza. A lot. There's just, I think, 2 days ago, the Prime Minister announced that the government was granting building permits to Palestinians to build in Area C, something that hasn't happened in quite a while. We care very much about the Palestinian people, about improving the quality of life. We work with them extensively on it. We think it's good for Israel and good for the Palestinians. We take no, I'm sorry, I've lost the feed, but we take no, it's a matter of real significance to us and importance to us to improve the quality of life. And just to be clear, we want the Palestinians to have autonomy. We want the Palestinians to govern themselves. The security issues are somewhat daunting. The world has changed a lot in the past 10, 15 years. The last time people took a hard look at peacemaking, Gaza was not threatening to Israel. Lebanon was far less threatening to Israel. Syria obviously wasn't the catastrophe that it became. Iraq was less threatening, and Iran was much less threatening to Israel. So the capacity of Israel to take risks has changed. The facts on the ground have changed. And we need to develop a plan for 2019.
So, Mr. Freidman, Ambassador?
With all respect to yeah.
You're sorry to interrupt you, but we're just running out of time. Yeah. I mean, as you know, every single peace plan envisages Israel being in total control of security, whether it's the sea off Gaza, whether it's the eventual border on the other side, whether it's the airwaves, the airspace. All of that is Israel's to patrol and to man. I guess I wanted to ask you, in light of this security issue that you bring up, you have said that, in fact, you said just recently, under certain circumstances, I think Israel has the right to retain some, but unlikely all, of the West Bank. I mean, that is pretty, far out, so to speak. What do you envision? How much of the West Bank, and under what circumstances?
Christiane, that's not far out at all. If you go back to our Undersecretary of State and during the Johnson administration, who represented the United States in the negotiation of the ceasefire to the Six-Day War.
Yeah, but sir, that was before the engagement. Sir, that was before the engagement between Israel and Palestine in the Oslo process. I just want to know what circumstances and how much.
Yeah. Oh, I don't know. I mean, the question was put to me hypothetically. How much? Look, Israel has not presented to us any plan to retain or annex any portion of the West Bank, and we have no view on it at all right now. My view was a legal one, whether Israel has the legal right to retain under some circumstances some portion of the West Bank. The answer is yes, but it's a hypothetical question, and more importantly, It's a legal question, and this is not a
Right.
a conflict that's going to be resolved in a court of law. It has to be resolved diplomatically. So I think much more was made of that than it really is worth.
All right. I just want to show some video because it's interesting. It's you with a sledgehammer just recently, you know, sort of breaking ground, if you like, at that tunnel that runs under a Palestinian village, Silwan, in East Jerusalem. And just to ask you to comment on why you would be doing that, why you support and even donate to settlements which are considered illegal under international law. And the U.S. has a policy that the ambassador to Israel should not visit settlements in the West Bank. You obviously, you know, you financed Beit El, you visited Ariel. Why do you think you can keep doing these things in contravention of U.S. law?
Christiane, you've made about 6 assumptions there, every one of which respectfully is wrong. First of all, I am the United States ambassador to Israel. My area of responsibility extends to Israel inside the Green Line, to the West Bank, and to Gaza. So it's my area of responsibility to go anywhere.
No, I said the settlements.
That is the United States policy. The settlements are a part of the West Bank. It's part of my responsibility. Anywhere in the West Bank is under my area of responsibility. Number 2, that was an incredible heritage site. That was the discovery of the pilgrimage road from the bathing pool at the bottom of the ancient temple. A road that went all the way up to the temple. It was a road where Jesus walked, where you know, people has great religious and historical significance. It was an incredible archaeological discovery, discovered by secular archaeologists, and it's a matter of great interest to the American people. Many, many tens of millions of Americans found this very interesting, and I was attending the opening of this incredible archaeological discovery, which, by the way, was so far below the homes of the residents that, you know, 60, 70 feet had no impact on them whatsoever.
All right. Well, you know, just that some would ask, why do that at a time like this? But listen, you've answered the question. We're grateful that you've been with us tonight. And thank you for joining us, Ambassador Freidman from Tel Aviv.